It's Wednesday, August 11, 2021. Before I start this video today, I want to remind all of you to please make sure that you give this video a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that bell notification down below so that you are alerted with the newest video. Also, please come over to my Patreon channel. I'll be uploading a brand new video in the next day or two, so please come over and check that out. But if you really want to support this channel and the message, make sure you're sharing these videos, make sure you're giving them a thumbs up, and make sure you are subscribed. But without further ado, let's get into what's happening today. Dow Jones closes up over 200 points to a brand new record all-time high. This, while we have 25% unemployment in America, Senate passes $1 trillion infrastructure bill. Now they're in talks of another $3.5 trillion. So we are printing so much money. The printing presses are melting down. They're overheating. It's just unbelievable what is going on. The debts and deficits continue to surge. The news continues to be very, very bad. Yet the markets go up. Isn't it amazing? These markets love bad news. And I was just looking at Yahoo Business, and they're predicting that we're going to see first-time jobless claims last week come in at 375,000. So almost 400. We don't know. Could come in even closer to 400 or above 400. We won't know till tomorrow. But just think that if that number comes in at 375,000 first-time jobless claims tomorrow morning, we are continuing to hemorrhage jobs here in America for a year and a half. It's more bad news, but the stock market doesn't care. Wall Street and Main Street are completely disconnected. And let me ask you this. Dow Jones at a record high today. Did it help you? If you're sitting at home without a job, if you're trying to get a job, if you can't pay your bills, you can't save any money, how is this helping you? It's amazing that the people out there that believe everything is okay are the people that are actually hurting the most, and they don't even realize it. People that have been robbed, they're going to have no retirement. Their pensions are being robbed as we speak. Social Security being robbed. Their savings being robbed. The passing of this $1 trillion and the additional $3.5 trillion that's coming is going to rob all of us blind. And yet people believe everything is okay while they're being robbed. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that people are being shaken down and they're actually laughing and believing everything is okay while they're being shaken down, while they're being robbed. It's unbelievable. But this is, you know, the world we live in. Zombies everywhere, people with their heads in the sand, people in denial, people who just can't face the truth. You know, it's really a sad state of affairs that we're in right now. People are just allowing the robbery to take place of their money, their futures, of their businesses. It's sad. I want to get into this first article on CNBC. Cushman & Wakefield CEO expects full recovery in office employment by mid-2022. You've got to be kidding me. CEO of Cushman & Wakefield, Brett White, told CNBC he sees encouraging signs in the commercial real estate market as it overcomes disruption. Now, he must be living in a different world, because the last I checked, there was 80% vacancy in commercial buildings in New York. 80% vacancy. In my area, if I go down to El Paseo, which is the Rodeo Drive of the desert, I would estimate that about 25% of the businesses are now gone. If I look at office space in Palm Springs, it's just been destroyed. Where are these people going to come from? Who's coming back to work? Yes, some people are going to come back to the offices. I understand that. But to sit here on CNBC and say that he expects to see office employment fully recover by mid-2022, I don't know what he is smoking. He says this: we expect full office employment in the U.S. middle of next year. You know, before the health crisis even hit, I was seeing commercial real estate really getting hammered. And we're talking about shutting things down again. So who in the world would even believe any of this? Are people going back to work? Yes. Are all of them? Absolutely not. Are we going to see office space recover 100%? It's going to take a very, very long time if it ever does. Article today, this on The Hedge. One Redditor's tale of regret exposes homebuyers suddenly paying the price of FOMO, fear of missing out. And if we go back to what Mr. White said and people returning, well, then we have another problem. Because yes, people are going to return back to the offices, but not 100%. What's going to happen to these people who bought a home 2 or 3 hours away from their office, believing that they were never going to ever have to go back to the office to work? What happens when they get that phone call from their boss saying, hey, you got to come back to work. You got to come back to the office. Now, as this market is the housing market is beginning to slow down, as we're going to begin to see a correction and we will see a collapse in it. What are these people going to do who bought that house 2 or 3 hours away? Now things are slowing down, and now they're not getting the viewings on their listing. Now things are beginning to slow down. What are they going to do? And if things accelerate and we begin to watch things really slow down and really correct, what are all these people going to do who bought these houses believing they were never going to ever have to go back to the office? So that's going to be another question, and I think a lot of people are going to regret what they did buying that house. Another article today. Here we go again. Dozens of major events are being canceled across the country. Well, here we have another side of the spectrum. Over here, you have the Wakefield CEO telling you that everything's going back to normal, 100% capacity. And here we have more closures coming. New Orleans Jazz Festival canceled. New York Oyster Festival canceled. In Oklahoma, the Choctaw Nation canceled its Labor Day festival. And there's dozens of these things across the country, these large festivals, music events, canceled. And, I think what's going to happen out here, we're supposed to have the large tennis tournament here in Indian Wells in a couple months. Is that going to be canceled? And I think about what these cancellations have done here with Coachella Fest and Stagecoach and the tennis tournament. It has cost literally the Valley here hundreds of millions of dollars. You look at the convention business where you live, where I live, Las Vegas, Chicago, all closed, costing, this has gone into the billions of dollars, right? Billions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe even, breaking $1 trillion when you take into effect everything that's involved with retail shopping and the restaurants. And when people come into town, like when they come into the desert here to a convention, they're eating at the restaurants, they're shopping at the small stores. They're using the Ubers to drive around. They're going to the resorts. They're paying $300-400 a night for a room. They're flying into the airport. This brings in so much business. So I don't know what the number is nationally, what we've lost in business. And how about tourism? Tourism has just been devastated, and now we're closing events down again. So the Wakefield CEO says everything's going to be open. Everybody's going to be back in the office next year. But right now, today, we're looking at more closures and the threat of this economy and businesses completely closing down again. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I don't believe we're going to see everybody back at the office and all of this retail space back to full capacity by mid-2022. Give me a break. CNBC today. Fed should announce bond taper in September. This is not going to happen in September, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to happen for a while. But will it ever happen? Yeah, it's possible it will happen. People will deal with inflation being at 5 or 6%. But at some point, when things get so out of control, when the inflation is running so hot, they are going to have no choice but to raise rates. And this is when you're going to see the massive depression that so many people have been talking about, me included. It's unavoidable. I think that they're going to, do whatever they can to kick the can down the road, but the inflation's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. And people are not going to be able to tolerate paying, $25 for a loaf of bread or $100 for a loaf of bread. So at some point, they're going to have to step in. They're going to have to raise rates, and everything's going to come to a crashing halt. And there's going to be a lot of pain to be felt. So, all the people out there running up the credit cards, buying the new houses, buying the new cars, and spending all this money that they don't have, and just hoping that everything's going to come back to normal. Enjoy the party while it lasts, because inflation's not going away, and we're going to come to a dead-end road here where the Fed is going to have to be the bad guy. They've allowed this to get so out of control. They're going to be forced to raise rates at some point, and people are going to feel severe pain when it happens. July consumer prices jumped 5.4%, but core inflation rises less than expected. Yeah, it rose at about 0.3%. I think that they were expecting it to rise at around 0.8%. Inflation was hot in July, but rent is showing up yet and could drive prices higher. CPI increased by 0.3% last month, slightly higher than expected. This excludes, though, food and energy. If you want to talk about two things that exploded, how about food and energy? But of course, that's excluded. Just going to the grocery store the other day, I cannot believe the price of food. It's absolute insanity. And anyone with a family, my heart goes out to you. You've got to be seeing this on a daily basis. And it's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. It's going to get more expensive. And the question is, how much can people tolerate? How much can they handle before they just throw the towel in? I mean, we're getting very close to that point. I'm paying near $4.50 for regular gas. It's just absolutely crazy. CNBC, this map shows how much rental assistance states have distributed. This was pretty interesting. I don't know if you can really see this, but the light blue, which is about probably 60 to 70% of the country, that represents 10%. This is the first round of emergency rental assistance that these states got. The light blue states only got 10%. The darker blue states got 20%, and the even darker states got 30%. Looks like one state, here, let me put on my glasses really quick. Now we've got 3 states that got 40%. Otherwise, about 70% of the country has only gotten about 10% of the rental assistance. I mean, this is unbelievable. And when you take in the darker blue at 20%, that's literally 90% of the country got less than 20% of the rental assistance. Where is the money? And why is this being held up? Again, if you're relying on the government to save you, you're going to be in big trouble. Another article today, renters are behind $3,700 in rent on average. This map shows a state breakdown. Now, again, do you even believe this number of $3,700? I've been reading it's been $6,000. So now in this article, it's $3,700. We don't know. Nobody knows what the real numbers are. But one thing I can tell you is this, the numbers are worse than they're telling you with employment, with GDP, with renters, with mortgage forbearance, how many renters are actually in threat of being evicted. We don't even know the real numbers. They're way worse than you and I could even imagine. But when you look at the rental map, a couple states that are in really big trouble it looks like are Hawaii, California, and Florida. They're around $5,000 to $6,000 on average behind in rent, the average renter. Again, this is going to be a huge problem. How are people ever going to get caught up? How are they ever going to make this debt whole? What's going to happen to the landlords? What's going to happen to these properties? Are the banks going to foreclose on landlords? Again, it's a disaster in the making. And while we look at the average American renter behind $3,700 in rent, even though it's much higher, I know it's much higher. I went back to Yahoo Business here, and this is an article that came out in 2019. When things were a bit better, right before the crisis, and Yahoo Business took a survey, and this is what they found. 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. So how in the world are these people that are behind in rent ever going to get caught up? How are these people who are behind in mortgages ever going to get caught up? If you're $10, $15, $20,000 behind on a credit card bill, and you have $80,000 in college tuition debt, how in the world, I've got to ask you, please comment down below, how in the world will you ever get caught up? 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved up. How can we be having a housing boom when you look at a survey like this? How in the world can people be out gambling in Las Vegas when you look at a survey like this? How can Americans even be out shopping when you look at a survey like this? This is reality. This is the trouble we are really in, and everything is being propped up by the Fed, giving people money to go to Las Vegas, giving money for people to spend in the stock market, giving people money to go out and shop at retailers, to go out and buy cryptocurrencies, all while, according to this survey, 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved up. But wow, you can't get a house, you can't buy a car. I mean, everybody is just flush with cash, I guess. In all reality, you know and I know, this is all being propped up by the Fed. And now the repercussion here, the consequence, is this inflation that's coming. Now they're telling you it's just transitory, that it's temporary. It's going to go away by the end of summer. September, it's going to be gone. Do you really believe that? Ask yourself, what if it's not? What if it gets worse? How much longer can they keep overheating the printing press before it just blows up? And let me tell you, we're getting really, really close to something really big happening, a catastrophe, okay? We are going to see a catastrophe here economically, and there's going to be a lot of fallout from this catastrophe. And if you're not holding real assets, if you're not holding some cash right now, if you're not getting the debts paid off, you are going to be in a world of hurt. You're going to have a catastrophic financial meltdown in your own life. This is not going away, ladies and gentlemen. Things are about to get very, very real. They can tell you that, oh, the inflation wasn't as bad, although they don't include food and energy. They can tell you that people are going back to work to their $8, $10, $12 an hour jobs, although real unemployment is 25%. They can tell you how great the stock market is, but you have the Fed in it buying everything. So everything is an illusion. And when you realize that, then you begin to realize that you better get ready. You better get ready. And you better get the debts paid off. Get your bills paid off now. Put some gold and silver away. Put some cash away. You're going to sleep much better at night. You're not going to be a debt slave. The debt slave here, they're done. They're done. And many of the people who resent what I'm saying, that reject what I'm saying, they are the debt slaves. They're the ones that have already lost. They've already lost. And yet they're telling you and I things are great because the Dow Jones is at a record high today. Even though they are addicted to government money now. They're dependent on it. And once the government cuts them off, they're done. They're done. They'll be the same people who told us how great things were. These are going to be the same people sleeping in a tent if they're not careful.